believe in a higher world beyond this material dimension that we currently exist in? Do you believe in such beings as spirits and angels, and that it's possible to communicate with such beings when you need help and guidance in your life? Do you believe in the power of mind and of the human spirit, and that this universe in which we live is far more magical and fantastic than we have been told? If so, you're not alone. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to talk about some of these subjects and focus on the growth of our greater selves. This is the infinite journey. Blessings, one and all, and welcome to the Infinite Journey podcast. I'm Paul James Caden, and on today's show, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. Originally, I was going to record the show today on the subject of getting into the subconscious and reactive mind and getting rid of some of those programs and indoctrinations that have been instilled within us by family, by society, and just being more of our authentic selves. Getting rid of those programs that were continually just running on autopilot in the back of our minds. Why we do what we do, say what we say, believe what we believe, support what we support. And many times we don't even really know why. If you ask a person a question, why do you think that? Why do you believe that? Why are you saying that? They will just give you rhetoric, and that rhetoric is generally very much in harmony with the rhetoric of another certain group of people that is around them in their lives. So I really wanted to get into that, and I'm hoping Wednesday or Friday we will be able to record that show because I think it's an important one. This technique really isn't that hard. It's very simple. But today I wanted to talk about something I've been getting a lot of emails about over the last 2 weeks or so. A lot of people that listen to my old show, some new people sending me emails, sending me links to this particular video on YouTube, asking me if I've seen it. If I haven't, would I watch it? And what do I think about it? And the video I'm making reference to is by a man by the name of Dana Coverstone. He is a pastor, I believe, in Kentucky of the Assemblies of God Church. And he has a video where he said he had 3 prophetic dreams. And God showed him in these dreams these very difficult times that are about to come upon the earth. And I know the internet has been really abuzz over this since it came out. But where do I begin on how to approach this subject? I guess from the beginning to say those of you who know me, have listened to my shows over the last over 2 years that I've been podcasting now. Those of you who are new to this show may or may not know that I come from a Protestant evangelical fundamentalist background. Now, I walked away from that particular sect of Christianity in late 1999 for, what I felt were very good reasons. But being a Protestant evangelical, with that flair of fundamentalist viewpoint, what I heard and what I saw from Pastor Dana Coverstone was not anything new to me. Now, I'm not judging this man. He could be 100% honest. I know a lot of people think he is, and he could be. He could have had these dreams. God could have given him these dreams. I believe in visions. I believe in prophecy. I believe in the spiritual world revealing itself to mortal men, guiding us, leading us, and even showing us things about the future or immediate future. I absolutely believe in those things. But I've also saw a lot in the past from my evangelical background. A lot of people, pastors, people in churches, people that claimed they were prophets, televangelists, a lot of people that would come out after the fact when something significant or catastrophic would happen and say, oh, by the way, God showed me this in a vision 6 months before it happened, or 1 month, or a week ago before it happened. I saw it all unfold. But it's always after the fact, and that's what I call or came to label, back in the day as Johnny come lately prophets. Something happens, and then they come out and say, "Oh, by the way, I saw this in a dream." Well, if God gave you a dream, if God gave you a vision, you probably should have said something beforehand. And in my personal opinion, I think you probably would have felt led by God, by the Spirit, to share it beforehand, because there would be a certain number of people that would need to hear that message and prepare. Oh, he told us this 3 months before it happened. So now we're seeing this unfold. We need to prepare mentally, physically, spiritually, get supplies, whatever it is we need to do to be ready. But that's one of the first things I noticed about the Dana Coverstone prophecies, was that he said, this happened, of course, with coronavirus and everything in March. And he said he had the dream in December. Now, again, I'm not saying this gentleman is, being dishonest or that he's a liar. He very well could have had that dream in December. I don't know. But I've seen this kind of thing happen many times in the past. Many times those visions and prophecies, what they add onto it after the fact. I had this dream that the pandemic was coming. I saw people locked in their houses. I saw food shortages. I saw people out of work. And then it adds on from there. I feel what they think is going to happen. Then I saw this. Then I saw that. And those things don't necessarily come to pass. Now, there are a great many people that claim to be prophets before Dana Coverstone that said things like this, predicted things that were going to happen after the fact that never came to fruition. So again, I'm not saying that Pastor Coverstone is being dishonest. I know a lot of people say, oh, he seems very humble. He seems very legitimate. Yeah, he seems like a nice guy. I didn't see anything that made me go, oh man, this guy is, a charlatan. But again, I have to say where I go toward erring on the side of caution. So did all the other people that I saw in the past, which were many of them. And many people before Pastor Coverstone said the same thing. I believe this man or this woman because they seem so humble, they seem so down to earth. And some of them just turned out to be, overzealous people that maybe spoke out of turn. They had something that wasn't prophecy, and it was misconstrued by them to be a message from God. People can make mistakes, and that's fine. We don't hold it against them if somebody says, "I believe God is telling me," or "I sincerely believe God gave me that dream," but they made a mistake. We all make mistakes. But then there are people that didn't turn out to be as humble and sweet and godly and down to earth as we all thought they were. So to be taken in just because somebody seems like they're nice, and again, I'm not saying he's not a nice guy because I don't know him from Adam, but someone being a nice guy or someone seeming like they're a humble man or a humble woman, that's not the prerequisite of believing what they say when it comes to giving something as important as a word of prophecy. I think for me, I believe that a lot of us know that the world is in bad shape. We know that there's going to be what many call a last day where all of this wraps up and comes to an ultimate conclusion. It could be soon, it could be later. Nobody knows the day or the hour. It will happen, and we will see certain signs, I believe, when that time is at the door, if we're alive on planet Earth at that time. So we don't necessarily, at least for me, have to get all excited or up in arms or cause a big to do, if I may use that word, over a prophecy that someone wrote in a book or said in a church or said at some prayer meeting or large gathering like the televangelists or someone on the internet. We know that day is coming. And the early Christians, there's not a spiritual tradition on the earth that doesn't tell us you live your life preparing for your death. And you're not doing that in a morbid way. You're doing that because you're mortal. You're not going to live forever. This world isn't going to last forever. The things in this world are not going to last forever. So there are many spiritual traditions, including Christianity, that in the beginning, and some still hold that practice, living your life preparing for your death, being the best person you can be, making sure you treat others well, making sure you treat others right, be kind, be loving, be a living example for God in this world where people need that example every day of their lives. Always make sure that you're living right. Always make sure that your house is in order. And yes, we're all going to make mistakes. We don't rule over ourselves with an iron fist. Oh boy, don't make any little mistake because you could die or it could be the end of the world. You know, everybody makes mistakes. But you live your life trying your best to be a good person and live in concert with the golden rule. Love others as you love yourself. Do good to others. And so we don't need a bunch of people, if we're living that way, telling us that the end is nigh. Because we know the end is nigh sooner or later. Could be in our lifetime, could be in 1,000 years, could be in 1,000 days, could be an hour, could be a minute. It could be before I finish recording this podcast. But when you live knowing this, you're aware of this. You're keeping an eye on what's going on in the world, the state of the world, the state of people in the world. You don't necessarily have to run after all these prophets or internet prophets and scurry around and start living by what they're telling you starting at that moment. Because you should have been putting your life in order, your house in order, and preparing for that day when you leave this world before you heard the message of Dana Coverstone or whomever. And what happens if these people are wrong? And many of them have been wrong throughout the years, way, way back, 1900s, 1800s, always been people that stood up and said the end is near. This is what's going to happen this particular year. This is what's going to happen at this particular time. And it never did. Do you know how many doomsday prophets and end of the world prophets there were during World War One, World War Two, the Great Depression? There were many, many doomsday sayers and end of time prophets during those times saying, this is it. This is the event that starts it all off. This is it. In times of plague and famine and hardship, economic collapse, or as nations would collapse and lose their power and empires fell, there were always those that said, this is it. Because this is happening to us. This is it. And they were wrong. They were incorrect. So listen, I never tell anybody what to believe. I'm not here to be anybody's teacher. I'm not here to be anybody's guru. I'm not here to instill programs, into people's minds. I podcast because I love doing it and I just speak from my heart, my mind, my experience, things that I've learned. And I try to speak from a standpoint, I've always said on all of my shows, from a place of logic, reason, and just common sense, balanced thinking, and critical thinking. Because if we don't have those things, folks, we're all over the map. And that doesn't, even if we have those things, doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes because we're fallible humans. But if we're just running to and fro and here and there, just like I said in the last podcast, people become undoctrinated and then they look for someone else to indoctrinate them because they need someone else to tell them what is right, what is wrong, what is happening, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, what do we believe, what do we do? And that's why we see people running like lost sheep to all these different people, looking for the one, looking for the voice, looking for the voice of God, looking for the prophet, looking for the great teacher. Well, how about the voice of God and the great teacher that's within you? You have the Spirit of God. You have that divine spark within you. What is your heart saying? What do you feel? What do you know deep down inside of yourself? But now we have to be careful with that because when you ask some people that question, immediately, as I said in the beginning of this show, as an example of people running on programs that other people indoctrinated with them or instilled in their minds, you ask people, what do you feel? What do you feel God is saying to you in your heart? And they'll start spitting at you all this fundamental evangelical religious group doctrine and rhetoric. And that's not your heart speaking. That's your subconscious and reactive mind speaking with what other people have filled it with. Because you're parroting exactly what they say almost verbatim. So before we go spouting off, oh, I'm spirit led, I'm led by God, I'm led by the Holy Spirit, I'm led by Jesus, I'm led by whomever, we need to check up on ourselves and find out if we're not mistaking the voice of God and being led by the Spirit of God by the voice of whomever. Maybe someone like Dana Coverstone, because that's the next person we put all of our eggs in their basket. Sounds good. Everybody else is running in that direction. Everybody else believes it, so I'm going to do that too. And again, I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm not saying he's a bad man. I'm just saying we need to be more spiritually responsible with ourselves and for ourselves. And we need to stop following after all of these internet prophets, and there's so many of them out there. And the videos are shared all over the place. They have thousands and thousands of views on YouTube. In the comments, there's hundreds and thousands of people saying, I believe it. And very few people that say, I don't know, I question this. And if they do, those who say they believe attack that person. Now, that doesn't sound very godly, now does it? And I'm probably going to get some flack emails for this. So I'm probably going to make some people upset with this. But again, I have to speak from my heart. I see a lot of these prophecies about Donald Trump on the internet. Donald Trump is God's man. Here's what's going to happen if we vote for Joe Biden. I saw him in a vision with a serpent's tongue, and I saw Donald Trump, with the great eagle of the Spirit of God over him. Hey, listen, folks. God's not overly interested in our politics. I'm sure if there was a great godly man we all needed to vote for some divine purpose, I think we would know, and I think we would recognize that. I think enough people would anyway to say, I feel like this guy has really got something. He has integrity. He seems like he's for the people, all of the people, not just some of the people. But when we're propping up politicians who say things that are kind of racist, people that are egocentric, arrogant, become angry and attack and name call anybody that doesn't agree with them, that's not humble. I always say, I always say on this show, and I've always said on all my shows, remember the phrase, by their fruits you will know them. And you can't get sweet water out of a source where the water is bitter or sour. That's what the Bible says. And so we can't start superimposing our religious beliefs on politicians, propping them up to being something that they're not, and then coming out and saying, oh, by the way, God told me this is the way to go. A lot of religious people are always talking about everybody's being deceived. Satan's always deceiving people as an angel of light. We've all heard that said. How do we know that some of these Trump prophecies and other prophecies on the internet aren't coming from a deceptive spiritual source? See, we never think about that. And I've mentioned this on another show because isn't Antichrist supposed to be this political figure that many people run after and bow down to and think he's so wonderful, but he's not? And how many people are running after, the big DT right now, Donald Trump, refusing even to acknowledge some very terrible things that he said and did. But they have no issue seeing that in the other people. That's not humble. That's not spiritual eyes open. That's not even being real with yourself. That is superimposing your thoughts, ideas, and religious indoctrination onto a situation, and that indoctrination is making you blind to reality. Now, I'm just going to leave that there because this is not what this show is about. But I want to pull it back in and say, watch who you're listening to, giving the thumbs up, and oh my God, this is such a wonderful prophecy. Because a lot of these people on the internet, let me tell you, their prophecies aren't going to come true. The politicians they're pointing to are not going to save them or anyone else. And if we want to talk about prophecy, here's one. At the rate we're going, this world, this country, the United States, is going to pop like an overfilled water balloon. The tension is so high. And if people want to run around saying they're having prophecies about this politician, and prophecies about this, and prophecies about that, running after those things while forgetting the fundamentals of their faith and how they should act and how they should speak and how they should treat others and even how they should measure the integrity and ethics and morality of others by that measuring stick of faith and love. If you want to throw that all away and just be ruled by your indoctrination and your religious flights of fancy because it's exciting to always be, the end of I know, I was one of them. It's an adrenaline rush. Oh, this is it. This is going to start the end time events. Jesus is coming. You're all excited. I get it. It's like a natural little high when, you get into all that stuff all the time. But it's dangerous. And if that's what people do, mark these words. The day is going to come, and it could come very, very much sooner than later, that the politician you're putting all your faith in and all your prophecies into, believing all these internet prophets, they are going to disappoint a great many people. And when they disappoint those people, their faith will be shipwrecked. But yet there will be another group of people who call themselves believers that will follow these people into something so horrible it could rival the behavior and policies and governmental system of Adolf Hitler. And they'll cry and yell all the way, it's from God. We're establishing God's kingdom on this earth. If we want to get biblical about this, doesn't the Bible say that in the last day there will be many false prophets, many false Christs? Well, we certainly have a lot of prophets in the world right now and on the internet right now. And I don't see a whole heck of a lot of people being very discerning about the message. All someone has to say is the words Jesus, God, prophecy, and everyone believes it. At least most people. Dangerous waters to be wading in, my friends. And that's another reason for me personally, I don't go running after this kind of thing. I'd rather be old school and live my life preparing for my death, however it comes. End of the world, die of old age, die of whatever happens to me. I want to try to make sure every day that I'm ready to be face to face with my maker. Period. And I certainly don't need someone on the internet or anywhere else telling me that I need to go buy a gun, I need to stock up a bunch of food, I better choose the right politician, I better vote for the right person, I better hate the right people, I better believe in these particular prophets that are all prophesying these same kinds of things because this is from the Lord. I don't need any of that. I personally don't need it. And again, I'm sure that probably some of them are very fine people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're right or that their prophecies are going to be fulfilled. If they are, great. If you're getting your life in order, your house in order, you're living the best life that you can, you're going to be prepared whether it comes to pass or not. And I've seen a lot of these prophecies that did not come to pass. Many. Read about many of them. Again, go back to, maybe go back in history to World War One and work your way forward. How many groups, how many people, how many individuals were claiming this was it? But then when those prophecies don't come to pass verbatim, they'll say, well, yeah, the world didn't end and this didn't happen, but it had more of a spiritual fulfillment. And that's just another way, folks. I hate to break it to some, some people, but that's just another way of saying, oops, I was wrong, but now let me turn around and try to cover my tracks in the snow. And, prophecy doesn't work that way. It's either right and it's true or it's not. And if it's not, we need to walk away from that person. Don't sit there and prop this person up when they tell you, well, it didn't happen the way I thought it would, but there was a spiritual fulfillment. Don't swallow that. You're enabling these people. And you're deluding yourself. So again, Pastor Coverstone could be, a very nice guy. He could have had these dreams. It could all be legitimate, but I've seen a lot of this kind of thing in the past, and it just didn't move me to a place like, wow, this is new, this is different, this sounds, like it's coming from the mouth of God. I've never heard anything like this before. To me, it sounded all too familiar. And as I always say, when I hear something like that, I keep my eyes and ears open. If the person was right, they were right. But I'm living my life now and before now to try to be a good person. Prepare for that day when I meet the source of all life and all things in the universe. That's what I take my comfort in. That's what I've always taken my comfort in. Not the words of men, not self proclaimed prophets, because there were times I believe some of these people and they were, 200% wrong. So we have to be careful. We have to be discerning. Don't run after all these people. Don't run after all these people. Remember, in the last days there will be many false prophets. And right now we have many prophets, men and women, and no one seems to be questioning or looking at these prophecies going, okay, it sounds interesting, but maybe I better be a little careful. No, man, we're all in. That's betting the house and the ranch on a very risky gamble because you don't want to sound negative, but my guess is throw a dart, get all these self-proclaimed prophets and internet prophets in one place, throw a dart. More than likely, whoever that dart hits, they're going to be the false prophet. Even if they're a good and honest person who just made a mistake. Maybe they thought they had a vision. I mean, I saw on the internet, a woman who was giving a prophecy about Donald Trump, and she said, God gave her a vision in her spirit that she saw, like in her imagination, all these things playing out about Donald Trump and how wrong she was about him. He's, God's man and all that type of thing that we hear. I can't build my house. Speaking for me, I wouldn't build my house on that particular land because it seems like it's that could be very unstable, and you could have a great big sinkhole open up underneath and swallow everything, everything you are, everything you believe, everything you thought you knew. And again, I'm not being negative and judging people and say, oh, all these people are bad and they're liars, and I'm not saying that at all. Because I've seen in the past some of these people. You look at Harold Camping. What year was it? 2010 or 11, somewhere around there, maybe 2009, that he predicted the end of the world. Didn't happen. It was supposed to be in May, in the spring. Then he said he was off on his calculations. It was going to come in October. Then it didn't happen in October, and he said it was spiritually fulfilled. And people kind of gave him a lot of flack, and he went into hiding. And I don't think Mr. Camping was a bad man. I mean, he's since passed away. I don't think he was looking to deliberately deceive people. When these prophecies that he thought he had figured out didn't come to pass, he was legitimately stunned and sad and didn't know what to say. He was embarrassed and hurt. So, he wasn't a bad man, even though a lot of people said, oh, that Harold Camping, what a fake, what a fraud. I hope he burns in hell. Terrible things people say after someone like that passes away. I don't think he was a bad man at all. I think he loved God. I think he really believed in what he was saying. He was sincere, but he was also sincerely wrong. So it's not necessarily saying, oh, well, these people are bad and they're terrible and, oh, they're going to lead you to hell. No. I'm sure amongst some of these self-proclaimed prophets, there are the deceivers and the wolves in sheep's clothing and the people trying to make a name for themselves and make money and gain internet followers because that kind of thing is popular. People watch it. You monetize a YouTube channel, getting thousands and thousands of views. You know, you're making some pretty good cash. People have become millionaires off of YouTube. So I'm sure there's people that know this and deliver these prophecies for that reason. But I'm also sure there are people like Harold Camping that good people, sincere people. Pastor Coverstone could be one of those good and sincere people. But as I said in many times in this show, it doesn't mean they're right. And so we have to be careful, we have to be discerning, and we can't run to and fro, like a bunch of sheep, lost sheep without a shepherd, just running around the hillside going person to person to person to person, looking for somebody to give us the truth. Because if you're looking for the ultimate truth outside of yourself, you're already looking in the wrong direction. And I'll tell you something, that is a truth that we all need to know and understand. Did not Christ say the kingdom of heaven is within you? He didn't say it was in the churches. He didn't say it was in the pastors. He didn't say it was in the prophets. He didn't say it was in somebody else. Go find it. He said, no, it's within you. So we need to stop looking out there for everything that's right here within us. God's Spirit is in there. That's where you'll find most of your ultimate truth. Not that we don't need teachers and people that learn things and they share their information with us, and it makes us smarter. You know, we learn something, we further our education, of course. We all need one another. But when we're looking for that prophet, that savior, and it seems like so many people are looking for that in this day and age, and I don't think it's going to end well for many people if we keep running after, these individuals and propping up these politicians and these overzealous religious people that, uh, you know, claim they're speaking for God, or, God's giving them prophecies and visions and dreams and all of this. We need to be very careful with that kind of thing. So I think I've said enough here. I think I've got all my thoughts out, what I personally believe and think about a lot of these internet prophets that are out there these days. And I'm not telling anyone else telling anyone else what to do, but I am telling you, be careful, be a little discerning. Don't go charging into something just because everybody else is, or your favorite pastor or teacher or internet Christian personality is charging into it at two, going, "Oh, I think this is 100% right." I've seen that happen, and it turned out to be 100% wrong. Whether the person delivering that message was the charlatan or just someone making a mistake. So be careful, be discerning. So, as usual, I thank you for listening to this show today. I hope you got something out of it. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and look within yourself. Get rid of all the rhetoric you've learned from other people and movements and uh, religious organizations and groups. Look within yourself. Push all that aside for a minute and just listen. What is God saying to you? What is He laying on your heart? And remember, if it comes back with the rhetoric, brush it aside. That's the inner programming's talking. You want to hear that authentic voice. So do some deep sea diving. Look within your own heart. See if you can find that still small voice within yourself that's above all of this clamor, and see what it's saying to you about your life, about what's going on in the world. You might be surprised what you hear. Again, thank you for listening. I'm Paul James Caden, and I'll see you next time here on The Journey.